The next person I'm ready. Hi, Tom. Good to see
you.
This is your show, Tom.
No.
So
Appreciate
you all
your
know,
help.
everyone who's watching knows who you are, the fearless leader of Judicial Watch, doing such great things. And I was just saying to Chris Farrell that your supporters are the most educated, the most aware people in who are not in Washington. And they know, and that's why they support Judicial Watch, because Judicial Watch is their eyes and ears in Washington. You can't trust government, and you all enforce government transparency. And they trust that no one is against the law, no one is above the law, which is your motto.
There are a lot of people against the law, unfortunately.
Yes, there are a lot of people against the law. I would like to put some people against the law, but there are a lot of people against the law.
That's right.
But they want to, what I hear over and over again we've heard from comments on social media, from the donors who were here yesterday, who were talking about the transparency of the organization, is that you do things that nobody else is doing in Washington, which
That's
is
right.
keeping government officials accountable.
Well, and educating people about what the government's up to. The reason our donors or supporters know about what's happening in Washington is because people don't understand we're an educational foundation.
Yeah.
We send the mail out. We go through social media, and it's one thing to go on and bloviate about the problems here in Washington. It's another thing to have an approach to figure out what's going on, so we can address the problems. Unless you know what the problem is, you really can't address it. And Judicial Watch is focused on the problem of corruption and its endemic nature here in Washington, D.C., and it's caused by this arrogance, secrecy, and contempt for the rule of law by most government agencies and most senior officials, even if they don't understand they're being contemptuous of the rule of law. Just the way they operate is inherently contemptuous.
There's something about
It's the attitude.
it's power corrupts. Power corrupts. Tell me, because we haven't really addressed this in the last couple of days, so I wanted you to do it. What the latest on, I'm going to put this in quotes, Russian collusion, Mueller's investigation, and what people need to follow. Because as I said, people who are watching this are educated into the details. Which we've seen Manafort and Gates. I think Manafort's been indicted, Gates is indicted. What is Judicial Watch trying to find? What's not being seen?
Well,
FISA Court, things like that.
Well, there are two new indictments issued by Robert Mueller's investigation that have nothing to do with Russia collusion. People should remember that the Mueller investigation was started to investigate collusion potentially between the Russians and the Trump
campaign
to steal the election. And he hasn't been focused on that, as best we can tell. All the indictments have nothing to do with it. All the plea deals have nothing to do with it. And fundamentally, the Russian collusion scandal is collapsing. At least the liberal version of it is collapsing. The idea that the Trump people were working with the Russians to steal the election, there's no evidence of it. And to the degree there is any evidence of it, it's all in the Russia dossier created by the Clinton DNC operation. So it's this political document that has been, according to the Nunes memo,
explain that.
Minimally corroborated. So the dossier...
I do think people are getting confused. The dossier was sort of an opposition research, for lack of a better term.
Hillary Clinton hired this company, Fusion GPS, to go out and find dirt on Donald Trump. And they came up with this narrative, which is completely false, that the Russians had dirt on Trump, and that Trump people were trying to collaborate with the Russians to steal the election.
Right.
And there was no corroborating evidence for any of that. And what's really outrageous about it is that they laundered it into the FBI. To me, if you learn that intelligence operatives in Russia are trying to blackmail the incoming president or candidate for president of the United States, the Republican Party, what do? You go and alert him. You protect him.
FBI does.
Yeah. Instead, they use it as a pretext to spy on him.
That's a good point.
And so you got to wonder why Mueller is still using this dossier.
And by using it, you were saying they used it in the FISA Court.
Well, it's been used in the FISA Court repeatedly. And, based on the Nunes memo, and Devin Nunes is the head of the Intelligence Committee in the House, who quite heroically has pushed to get this information out.
Right.
They didn't tell the court that it was a political document, basically Hillary Clinton. It was an opposition research document. And I don't think they told the court that it was corroborated, that it was minimally corroborated.
Right.
So you really have this kind of crisis where you've got this dossier being used to generate excuses to spy on the Trump team,
Americans.
And it's still being used
spying on Americans.
Yeah,
Clear.
yeah, to spy on
Right.
Americans improperly.
And why we're using these FISA
And it's still
courts.
being used to justify the investigation of Robert Mueller.
And you guys, Judicial Watch has one of your FOIA suits. I think is it FOIA with FISA Court? Is it the same law? To get to see exactly what the FBI used in order to spy on the Trump campaign.
We FOIA'd FISA, right?
But
So
that's such a Washington sentence. We should. It's a Freedom of Information Act FOIA.
Right.
FISA is Foreign Intelligence
Surveillance Act.
Surveillance Act. So, what the question is did FBI have anything when they went to court to ask to spy on the Trump administration? Did they have anything except for this falsified memo from the Hillary Clinton campaign? And that's what you and this I'll ask you because I don't know the answer. FISA courts are secret. I understand that. Has there ever been any time where they've been released their information? Is this a new?
I think certain documents from FISA court operations have been released subsequently, and the courts have discretion to release it, and certainly the Justice Department, they can ask that documents be released and material be declassified.
Oh, okay.
So what we have now is the Nunes memo describing the FISA court process and its evident abuse. The Democrats now want to put a memo out that also defends the FISA court process.
Because members of Congress have seen it.
Right, they've seen, well, one or two members may have seen the underlying FISA material, but it's largely been kept secret from the American people, both from Congress and the American people. So we filed a Freedom of Information Act request. And I've always told the White House that they should take this approach of extreme transparency. They should start declassifying this material, releasing this material, because I tell you, Emily, virtually every FOIA lawsuit we have, and we have nearly 24, well over 24 now,
wow,
on
right now,
Russia collusion. On Russia collusion
alone?
Yeah. Last time I counted, it was 26. So,
and also to be clear, on Russia collusion that nobody really thinks happened. This is the,
right. We're asking for the unmaskings. We're asking for
Yes.
the targeting of Flynn. We're asking for the FISA court documents. We're asking about the DNC hacks. We're doing all sorts, pretty much everything you would think to ask about, we've asked about.
And Congress, by the way, is not doing these things.
Well, and they're getting the stonewall too, to the degree they're even asking.
Right.
And at least we're in court.
You're in court and they're not.
But
right.
what's surprising is we're getting the stonewall from agencies run by Trump appointees. So the Justice Department, the FBI, call it deep state, whatever you will, is defending the operation that is so illicit, targeting Donald Trump and the abuses of power during the Obama administration that frankly may still be continuing into the Trump administration, where Trump is being targeted inappropriately by law enforcement based on a Hillary Clinton campaign document.
It's
created in collaboration with Russian intelligence. It's unbelievable. So all the noise you hear about indictments, or even those Russia indictments, which had nothing to do with the price of tea in China in terms of Russia collusion.
You're talking about Manafort and Gates.
Well, I'm talking about the Russian indictments from
the 12,
10 days ago now, of these Russians
Actual
who are
Russians,
typing out Facebook posts. That had nothing to do with collusion. So I think it's important that this is why Judicial Watch has taken such a strong lead here. It's because you've got this corrupt abuse of power to take down an elected president. And look, if President Trump did something wrong, we'd be first out of the gate.
Yeah, you would.
But here, the abuse is targeting Trump. Trump is the victim. The media hates to hear that, but he's been victimized by this whole process. And now he's the target of a criminal investigation based on nothing. And, he has 17 prosecutors, I'm sure, looking everywhere they can, trying to find a crime. And that's not what you do. You figure out what the crime is, and then you see if there's a charge to be followed up with. And there was no initial crime to be investigated, and now it's this they've turned the American system of law on its head by taking the communist approach in the old days, where you find the man and then you find the crime.
Wrong.
Yeah.
And which there's an old saying about any American you could find. We've committed like 3 felonies a day or something. There's if you want to, and I think of Scooter Libby as an example of somebody who in Ken Starr, no, that was Clinton, the prosecutor.
That was a special counsel then, yeah.
But who was trying to find Iranian. It was during the Bush administration, but a special investigation. And when we have these special prosecutors, their job is to find somebody wrong and to find a prosecution. And Scooter Libby was an assistant to Vice President Cheney. He was convicted, and He went to trial. He was convicted. He lost his law license. He didn't commit a crime. In the end, they found out that he didn't commit a crime, that it wasn't a crime that happened. But that's what happens when we have these special investigators with these massive teams, these massive salaries. They go after people. They will find you on something. And I think that's why half the White House has to get lawyers.
Yeah, 17 prosecutors. You could have Mother Teresa running the special counsel's office, and it's still going to be an out-of-control freight train.
Or they'll find Mother Teresa and arrest her.
Well, yeah, maybe she'll get it. But the point is, it's not even about Mueller at this point. It's about the special counsel office and whether it's being guided as the Constitution is supposed to require. Is it answerable to people appointed by the president and answerable and confirmed by the Senate? I don't think it is, practically speaking. And on top of that, it's just doing whatever it wants. It's got, I guarantee you, Emily, you've been around Washington, you've covered the Justice Department before. There's no comparable investigation with as much resources. They simply, terrorist investigations may have 1 or 2 prosecutors on the case. Here you've got 16 or 17. That to me is just government run amok. And this is a Justice Department that is out of control.
16 or 17 lawyers.
Yeah,
federal
those
lawyers.
Those are just the prosecutors.
Not to mention right.
We're not talking about FBI agents. We're not talking about other personnel that support them.
Right.
We've asked for the
What's
budget.
The cost? I was just going to ask you that. What is the cost of all this?
They give you the money once it's spent, but Mueller had a proposed budget.
What was it?
Well, we can't get it from this Justice Department.
What? But isn't it appropriated, the money? I mean, there's...
Well, don't you want to know how much he was planning to spend?
Planning or has or will or...
Well, some of the money, some of the details do come out, but we want the underlying material. We want to know what the proposal is, what his, what is he really looking at? And I tell you...
And when does he stop?
And when does he stop?
At what point does he stop?
Well, look at these indictments between Manafort and Gates. Manafort used to be the chairman of the Trump campaign, and Gates was an official of the Trump campaign, too. They're largely being charged with mortgage fraud. Mortgage, bank fraud, and tax fraud.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Russia collusion.
And it was before, if I understand, it was before they even worked for Trump, most of these crimes.
Yeah, whether, maybe some crimes moved
But nothing to do with the president.
Nothing to do with the president.
Nothing whatsoever to do with the president.
And nothing requiring a special counsel for.
Yeah, this could be through regular courts.
Nothing required.
Yeah.
And frankly, if it were for the fact they were former officials in the Trump campain,
we wouldn't know.
It's not to say they didn't do anything wrong, but they certainly would have been prosecuted, or certainly at the federal level.
Probably wouldn't have gotten caught because they're committing crime. Well, they're innocent, but no, they pled guilty.
No, Manafort and Gates have, Gates may have pled guilty by now, but Manafort has not pled guilty.
So he's still innocent until proven guilty.
And then these days, pleading guilty doesn't necessarily tell you everything.
It just gets you.
When the federal government comes down on you,
a lot of people will plead guilty.
You plead guilty because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, they'll find in some way. And another thing we were talking about, yesterday with some of your lawyers, is one of the great things about Judicial Watch is that when the American public forgets about issues, like we're talking, the American public, or at least the media, is talking about Russia collusion, talking about President Trump, you guys don't let things go until it's resolved. So the Hillary Clinton emails, which was fantastic, that you file these FOIA requests, they take forever. I can't even understand what's going on behind them. You get these massive document dumps that are, amazing information. She was not prosecuted, for whatever reason, was not prosecuted. Her campaign was not prosecuted. When you have classified emails being released or put on unsecured server, put on Anthony Weiner's server. This is part of what Judicial Watch does, is just stays on these cases so that the American people has all the information, even if it doesn't lead to a prosecution.
Well, in the case of Hillary Clinton, I think a prosecution is a little bit more likely than it used to be. And I think the reason there is because we keep on getting information out showing more abuses of or mishandling classified information.
Right.
For instance, on the Weiner laptop, thanks to Hillary's email server, there was the identity of a CIA official.
I didn't know.
On Weiner's laptop. Frankly, there's enough to arrest Hillary Clinton now. I don't want a special prosecutor. I want a prosecution. Because a special prosecutor, look, the evidence is out there. We just need law enforcement. The Justice Department is the equivalent of that poor deputy hiding behind the column during the Parkland shootings. They need to come out from behind the column and start doing their work.
Speaking of special prosecutor, not special prosecutor, on Hillary Clinton emails, who is investigating that? Is that still, you said there's still a chance of prosecution. I didn't know that. I thought that was over.
The Justice Department supposedly is still looking at it. The pay-to-play scandal, which is tied to Clinton emails,
Right.
is still allegedly being investigated by Arkansas U.S. Attorney and FBI out of Little Rock, because that's where the foundation had been placed. And so this stuff, none of this has disappeared. And all of this focus on Trump and Russia is designed in many ways to distract from the fact that the State Department was thoroughly compromised by Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
both there and afterwards as they tried to cover up what she did, that the FBI and Justice Department compromised in trying to protect her.
And the deep state still is.
Yeah, and now, in a just world with a new administration without political compromise, there'd be a prosecution. But they've been distracted, I think, because of the Russia investigations. And once those go away, there's going to be some accountability to be had in terms of investigations for Hillary Clinton, I think.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, you're
really,
welcome, Emily.
Really, you guys
Appreciate
are
it.
fighting the good fight. Really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me.
Thank you for having you on your own show.